And welcome back to Flexible Games, where we are playing Transport Fever. Working on the tools and machines. Here I have run all the lines, so this gives you a visual of what I was talking about. We got swing over to Eastish, we got the hub connection, we've got this one going underneath here, popping out right here, going into Gastonard. And we've got this one coming down and swooping into Bituminous Bear. So we got some good coverage out of all these cities. And we even have the option, again, with this line coming in, of going all the way into Far East. Because we have a whole lot of commercial in here, and we are growing it. There's a considerable amount of demand in Far East for tools, and it even, I mean, it covers a little bit of the industrial, so there's a little bit of industrial in there, so that's always an option. However, it would be a little bit more difficult considering we're already using this line here, right here. We're already using this one, so the whole double track system would have to be pretty creative on this side in order to work right. So that's just an observation. So now we need to work on steel. And this is going to be a little tricky because we're going to be using a lot of steel. Oh, wow, we're going to be using a lot of it. So this system has to be expandable and very, very dependable. So I am thinking we're going to need some major steel, and I think we're going to make our steel over here in this nice big area, and then tunnel underneath these or bridge over them and go into steel over here. And we're gonna have room for a lot of trains, because I can also do a little bit of work over here for fuel, or not fuel, but plastic, which is an oil-based system. And this really hasn't grown very much. Yeah, unfortunately. Maybe when we start feeding it. Maybe when we start feeding it, Bituminous Bear will perk up with the new tools and machines that they're going to be able to sell. Okay, so if we do that, I don't want to do it up here because that would have to cross the city and it would just be kind of a mess. All right, there we reset again. I don't know why it started doing that. I'm gonna go a full 8 tracks this time. We're gonna go the full. Oh man, the N and M and B are way too close to one another. Okay, so if we want to do steel, like over here, I'm gonna want this thing to come up and kind of glide in there. So let's plan for this here. Okay, so we can do steel and plastic input into that right there. So let's set up our steel mill, and let's see, food, oil, sawmill, steel mill. We're gonna set this puppy right over here, right about here. Let's do a little bit further away from those tracks so we have enough room to tunnel under. We're gonna do the steel mill right there. So this is a little bit more of a distance than I did on some of these other supply lines, but that's okay because we have plenty of room in that supply line to expand it. So this supply here, very expandable. And one of the things I'm going to try to do, let's set these up first. I'm going to try to do a sideways load on this because there's going to be a lot of trains on this. I'm going to do a six run, and I need it to point a little more to the left, like so. Okay, and now the iron and the coal need to come in, and I'm thinking of bringing those up right up in here. So we're going for maximum production here. We're not going for realism. We're going for maximum production. So I'm not too leery about doing a setup that looks a little crazy. I'm going to do an 8 station on this side because we want the maximum possible potential for expansion. So right in here, we're going to move this and we're going to put it right like that. So there is the supply for the steel. So let's now get, we're going to want sawmill, oil well, food processing, goods. There's the iron ore mine. So let's orient ourselves like this. We want to go far enough away that we're going to be able to use multiple trains for each line. So we're going to have something like an iron mine right in here, because I want to be able to put 3, maybe even 4 trains on this. So there's our iron mine, and now we're going to leave a little bit of space. And yes, we're going to put the coal mine right next to it. We're going for maximum production. So right in here will be the coal mine. So there we go. We have iron and coal. And we're going to, again, set this up. And 8 lanes, 8 platforms, gives us the ability to have 4 lines on each resource, because it'll use them equally. Because again, if you look at the requirements, it's iron and coal. Produces iron or steel, or if you're pulling slag out of here, which you certainly can, it will produce 2 steel and a slag. So if you have a setup for it, I would recommend pulling slag out of there, which we might do anyway. We have some areas that we can provide construction materials, because if we look at our construction materials plant, it needs stone or slag. Stone or slag. So if we were feeding this slag instead of stone, we could really beef up our construction or our steel production. But we would then rely on steel production for our construction materials production instead of having them separate. So if we try to supply both, it will most inevitably use stone only. I have tried setups to supply both, and it always favors one over another. So with this setup, we are now able to supply this thing with a ton of material and supply this tools machine factory with a ton of steel. So that is the plan for steel, and now it is time for oil, and this is a slightly gnarlier. We need, first we need an oil pump, so let's do an oil refinery. There we go, oil refinery. I don't know why that has a gray background. Oil refinery. So we want an oil refinery right in here somewhere. And Bituminous Bear is going to be our oil refinery city. So we're going to have a couple roads in here. We're going to have one just come out a little bit, one going off in this direction, one going off in this direction. That way it gives us options of where we connect to it. And that's what I want. I want options. Because this will produce oil, but it needs crude oil first. So now we need oil wells. So let's find those. There they are, oil wells. And let's just go a little bit further away right in here. And that will be our oil wells. So the last thing that we need to complete this is a plastics factory. Let's see. Forest. It's actually a chemical factory, I think it's called. Yep, chemical plant. Boy, I was wrong. All 3 tries I was wrong. So we want a chemical plant, and this will then go in with plastic and supply plastic for us. So we don't mind if this is a little skewed like that. So I want this to come out just a little bit again, and I want this one to come out. This one, oh, see, it doesn't like me very much. See, there we go. Now we've got at least the facilities to run some plastic. And yes, you can make plastic out of wheat or grain in this case. So you can use oil or you can use grain. So yeah, I could have used a farm, could have put a farm back here and made some plastic out of that. But I didn't for reasons that I can't actually tell. I actually have never used grain to make my plastic. So there's that. So we want a little bit of a road coming out here and one coming out this way. And again, the only reason I do it like this is so I have some options of where I can put this stuff. So we have now the ability to supply a lot of oil. And boy, are we going to need to supply a lot of oil. But I don't think I need 8 tracks. I think I'm going to go down to 4. Just because we have the heavy hauling mod. And we are pretty good on that front. I'm going to tick it over just a little bit like that. That should be plenty. I like using these for supply because I can take and branch off a bunch of depots off of those. So we are going to then allow this thing to load. How many do we want here? I could do it like this. Or I could put 8 and have them swing around into here. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that instead. It's going to be a beast of a station. But 4 tracks are going to be used for the supply, and then 4 tracks will be used to supply oil to my plastic. And so this side of things, I can actually use a terminal station and 4 tracks to supply my refined oil. So I want this to kind of bend a little bit and see if we can attach this right up into there. So now there's less of a bend that these have to do. So if I put that sideways, they would have to bend a little bit more. So now I need a supply into there of these goods. So I don't need as many because I have 6 right here. Probably the most I'll ever need is 4 of those. So I can put a station over here, and I'm going to do 6 over here because we have another use for plastic, and that is goods, which we could also use steel. So we have options for goods. I just want to leave our options open when it comes to these stations, because if you destroy these stations while they are full of goods, they will destroy all the goods that's inside of them. So I'd like to overbuild in this part of the game because I've got 11 billion and I'm not really concerned with my budget at this point. We are making money hand over fist and I'm not too concerned with that. Okay, so I want to set this up a little bit more straight. and set those up like that so we can branch off depots on this side for supplying up here. So now it's just a matter of running the lines and doing all of that, and I'll show you similar to how we did the stone. So we start, and let's start here. So we're going to go straight across, and we're going to match it up with this one here. So you can see we're one in here. If you look at these four, we're one in here. So this is why I do it, because these four are oriented differently. You can see the space is on this side. Oh, the space is on this side. Okay, well, that helps matters. So I'm going to get these as best I can. Get these going. Get these next to one another. There we go. Okay. And then if you're going to double it up, you want to build the track before the curve, obviously. And then double it up again. And now you're going to need to hook up to this one to the outside. So you can see there's a subtle turn in there. And the hard part is actually getting this to double up without interfering in the other line. So that looks pretty good like that, and that should match right up. And since these were pre-built, I can just extend these all the way down. And well, that was a little further than I thought it was. Okay, so we're gonna extend them down. Yeah, it always is further than you think. When you zoom out, you move a lot faster. So I'm gonna put these up, let them match right up next to one another. Do the same thing on this side. You want this one to match up with the outside, and then you can extend this line. Hopefully it doesn't interfere, and you should have ample room to join those up. So you have a little bit of odd curvature in here because this space is a slightly smaller than having two more lines in here. So there's a little bit of a difference there, and that's how you get two lines running to the same depot. Now the outside ones are easy because it's just point to point. You just point this one to the other one, point this one to the other one, and you're good to go. Not a big deal there. And now the depots for this, you keep them separate, because if you don't, the line itself is only going to highlight one set of tracks. And if you want to use multiple tracks for one line, you have to keep them separate. So in cases like this, you could not have in your game one depot for all trains. It just would not be possible for this to use one line. So that is an example of the system. Now, if I need to expand it later on, I can add these two and add some more trains, and that line frequency time would be much shorter if I did that. So the same sort of deal on this. We're going to want to start in the middle of these two tracks and get them over to the middle of this track, because these are different. You can see the middle of this has a gap on this side, where the middle of this has a gap on the other side. So this is a little trickier because this is an 8 station and this is a 4 station. So it's a little trickier to do, but not impossible, because we have a nice curve in there. We can either curve it around the outside or we can curve it around the inside. And on this case, I think I'm going to curve it around the outside. I think that would be better on this side to curve it around. And we come across, we just got to be careful giving ample space to that other track that this is going to run into. So we want to leave a little bit of space, you know, a little bit of a buffer here to let that other track bend out, and then we can just add this up right in. And then if we want, we can just build the next track right on the outside of that. And this one can bend right next to it, just like that. So on this side of things, it's a little bit trickier because we have a different track setup. So I'm just going to extend these lines all the way down. Why aren't these lining up? Come on, grab the right one. There you go. And it did do it again. There we go. There we go. It was a little bit off from the junction, so I just got to make sure to keep them tied up right into one another. Okay, so right in here, because this is a graceful corner, did I do that right? Yeah, I did that right. Because this is a graceful corner, we want this to gracefully go in on this side. A little nice graceful line. And again, we're going to want to leave a little space here. So we're going to stretch this out a little bit to give a nice graceful curve. And then maybe a little bit more to make sure those are married right up to one another. I can't imagine the math involved in being able to do this. Not easy math, by the way. There we go. So now we have a double supply line there. We have a double supply line there. And now I have some work to do. I need to do the same thing over here. I'm going to make a whole bunch of lines over here. And unfortunately, this is going to be a little trickier because I don't have a throughput. Although, one of the things I could do, I'm going to show you really quick how I'm going to solve this little problem. Because I need this to be a middle. Oh my god. We're going to do 8. High speed, second street connection. So we're going to use that second street connection right in here. I'm going to merge those up as best as I could. And I'm going to bulldoze this. And so it uses the same depot name. We're going to build that there. So now this thing is still covering both of these. And now I have an outside connection I can connect to out here. So that works out great. Glad I put those far enough apart where it works out. And they have a direct connection right into the industry. Should be no problem. So now I just have to lay a bunch of track. And I will do that off camera because I've already shown how I do it and the technique involved in doubling these up. And of course, we're going to want a couple depots over here out of the way. Bend them this way so they don't interfere with this second or this third track or fourth track over here. So yeah, that is how it is done, and I will continue that process. And I have a lot of track to build. So I will be back next episode with a little bit of lineage. All right, well, that'll do it. And I thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.